So we are back here, and well, basically, well, now onwards, all the talk will be in English again. So we're gonna switch completely in English. So I'm gonna leave again. It was a pleasure, and now we'll hand it over to my colleague Tudor.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. It's an amazing event so far, and I'm also happy to present our next speaker. Big applause for Esteve Castells, marketer by education, technologist by profession, and problem solver by nature. He dedicates his time to help companies achieve their business objectives by helping them grow, doing better SEO, SAO, traffic acquisition, product management, advertising, marketing, and any other piece of the puzzle aspect related to business growth. So, Esteve, go.
Thanks, Tudor. Thanks for having me in this amazing conference. It's an amazing opportunity for me to be here with the tech industry to share some of the things that I'm doing on my day-to-day. But especially, I think it's important that this conference takes place to make people think that they should stay home and that it's a good thing for the goodwill of everyone and making sure that we are all safe. So without more delay, I want to start my presentation, which will talk about SEO at scale and how we do and how we make sure that we rock SEO in 2020. Okay, so thanks to for the introduction about me. I work in Adevinta as the global SEO manager. I work in mostly growth and technology, and in the intersection of these two things, there is SEO usually. I come also from Softonic and Havas Media, which is two of the better schools for SEO. And finally, I love travel and also spicy food. Just about me, I have an SEO newsletter that it's in Spanish, but most of the resources are in English usually, so feel free to join. And also I do some SEO stuff in the Atomics Partner website. So the agenda for today, it will be basically four main things: the introduction, examples of what we do in Adevinta, and SEO in COVID-19 times. So introduction. For those that don't know Adevinta is the new name for Shipstead Marketplaces, and it's a global family of digital brands. We operate in 16 countries, and we have around 1.5 billion monthly visits. The company is quite known, I think, in Spain in general, especially in the tech industry. So I will not go into it. But yeah, first of all, I would like to set the basis on how we understand SEO in Adevinta. We operate classified marketplaces. So at the end of the day, what we do is not what others do, and SEO is needs to be really adapted to the industry you operate in, because otherwise it's not the same strategy, the one that you will follow. So at the end, what we do in Adevinta is creating an intersection of product and tech. So the best products that we can give the users with the best technical specifications and optimizations, having a strong ad supply to show our users and deliver value, and finally having a very strong brand. Because if we have a very strong brand, we can increase our popularity and be perceived by Google as a great website to rank for in their results. But not least important, SEO is cross-functional. So as you can see, many stakeholders are involved in this process. SEO is key to businesses that generate more revenue with less costs, and of course, is the foundation to a healthy and sustainable business. So you might be wondering, with so many marketplaces and so many stuff, how do you deal with it? To be honest, it's quite a challenge. It's not that we have figured out all the things regarding SEO in the last few years, but we are speeding up quite a lot and we are putting more and more effort into it. So I will show you two examples of how we leverage technology at scale in Adevinta to drive optimizations for our websites. And the first example I want to show you is how we deal with SEO elements through a CMS for SEO. And this project was done by Martin and Francesco, among other friends of our Italian team. They did a pretty amazing job, and I want to share it with you. So to doing this, I need to introduce you to Meti. Meti is a microservice and works with CSV for now as a configuration file. This is what the configuration file looks like. In the future, there will be an interface, of course, but now we started with the easy path, which is configuring a CSV file so that we can do basically all the optimizations that we want. We create optimizations by category, as you can see here, and then there are different variables that we configure in depending on which part of our classified websites we want to. If we want to improve a region, province, or a city, we can customize all the different SEO elements. For now, we have actually 5 elements in this microservice: the title, the meta description, the H1, the meta robots tag, and the canonical tag. These different tags basically are the basics of SEO, and without having this further optimized, we cannot really go into the next level. So what we do is first trying to do this correctly and being able to A/B test as we want, and then we move into other more advanced things. In this case, as you can see, this seems a bit tedious to manage, and indeed it is. It's not super easy, but the good thing is that it's very flexible. So we can configure everything we want in basically a matter of a few clicks. On the technical side, this is a bit how it works. So the CSV is stored in Amazon, is downloaded every 30 minutes, validated, and put in the Meti database. Then the query command runs every 24 hours. That goes through a cache system, and at the end, the microservice endpoint delivers the response when the front end requests for it. This is an example of the page response. It's pretty simple. And the Meti numbers for these days are around 8 million requests per day and about 6 millisecond response time, and we have caching in all the rules. The most important data about Meti is that instead of having to do one ticket every time we want to change something for SEO, we can do it on our own. It was a quite big project, to be honest, for our teams. It took more than 6 months to fully deploy it in all the website. But now that we are done with it, we don't have to invest any further time into it. And instead of having 2 weeks of waiting time to deploy a small change, now we can do it in our own just by waiting the cache systems to expire. And the second thing I want to share with you today is how we are using machine learning to power internal links. Machine learning is kind of a buzzword, and in the SEO world even more, because we always hear that Google is using it to rank search results, but we don't know even what machine learning means some of the times. But in this case, we decided that following the great directives of our management, we should invest more and more time into machine learning, as this is probably the future to be on the top performing websites. And internal links in Adevinta are quite a crazy thing, because you need to really scale it to many websites, many different languages, many different things overall. And what we wanted to do is create a universal solution that can work with a little customization for all of our websites. And so far, it has been quite successful. We are still learning quite a lot, but I will show you the very basic thing we did at the start, because I'm a big fan of solving problems when it's possible. And in this case, this is the very MVP that we did for machine learning internal links. It was done by Manu, Oscar, Alexandra, and Pedro. The two first guys are the machine learning team of Adevinta central teams, and the two latest guys are the developer and CEO of our Portuguese side. So first of all, we need to understand what is a good linking structure. A good linking structure is specific. We don't want to link to pages that are very generic. We want to give users the best recommendations for what they are looking for. Uses relevant keywords and links. If we think that, or users think that sofa is more relevant than couch as a keyword, so will Google, and we try to use that whenever we can. But links are, of course, linked to related content whenever possible, of course. It's not always possible. And the content updates. This is a bit more challenging because then we need to make basically the system be way more dynamic and not just static, but we are into it. So to do so, we introduce word embeddings. Word embeddings, for those that don't know, is basically a way of representing a word into a computer, basically using vectors to represent words. We're able to leverage the power of machine learning afterwards by relating different keywords or different things. In our case, it's keywords, but it could be other things between each other. So at the end, if you represent your 100,000 of keywords, as we do, you will end up with something like this. This is a bit more fancy than reality, but to have an idea, this is what we would have more or less. So what we would do is understanding the difference between words, the distance between different words. And this would tell us that these two words that are here and here are quite closely semantically, and they have something related to each other. By knowing this, we can leverage this relationship to generate our internal links, as Google values semantically related internal links quite a lot. So we did a few testing at the start, and we got to see, okay, what are we getting, right? For similar queries for double bed, we got bed, double bed, frame, whatever. This is quite a normal result. It's not very impressive, to be honest, because at the end, it's like a contain rules for either bed or double bed. But the reality is that when we started to see a lot more, we were quite impressed by the results. So if you use a fish tank, you could get things like aquarium that don't have any relationship in terms of words, but of course they have a lot of relationship between meaning. So this is one of the things that told us that we were on the right path. Other examples of this is, for example, how we can see that similar queries deliver other video consoles if we ask for PS3. So this is of course very interesting for SEO, and it's not very easy to do this without machine learning. It could be done, of course, but with machine learning we invested very little time to do this. It was a matter of one day to get this script working with this word embeddings algorithm, and the results are quite great. So how did it work in real life? First of all, I prepared myself a CSV of queries, so the keywords that we want to relate between each other, and their linked URLs. So to link from one to the other, we need the URL. Then this is passed into the machine learning model that generates an output CSV. Well, in this case, it's a JSON file, sorry, that links between the different keywords that we can see in the front end later, and that is integrated into the Custo Justo front end, as I was mentioning. So at the end of the day, what we see is this kind of links in the footer that are related to what we are looking at. And of course, for SEO, as you may know, Google first and basic approach to search was the PageRank model, and still PageRank model, we don't know exactly how it works. Probably it has been evolved quite a lot, but it's still there. So if you link from relevant pages to other relevant pages, it's likely that these have a boost and rank better over time. So about results, I can share some of the stuff that we have had so far about results by doing SEO, this kind of optimizations. I cannot be 100% transparent on the numbers because Adevinta is a publicly traded company. But what I can show you is that, for instance, we did this project in one of the marketplaces, Shpo, and we have had a plus 200% organic performance year on year. So at the end of the day, this is quite a good result for the business, and of course, good validation of what we are doing is working greatly. Then the same project we did launch for long tail pages into three different sites. So as you can see, we are not only leveraging the learnings onto the actual marketplace we launched it, but rather we try to learn for each of the new marketplaces to be even better and improve the speed of getting traction and visits so that it's faster. In this case, at the end of the day, leveraging machine learning is a great example of not just using machine learning because it's trending and it's cool, but rather because it solves a business problem for us, a technical issue that we didn't know how to solve efficiently. And thanks to this, we are live in several of the sites, and we are launching it in more in the near future. To finalize my presentation, I want to talk a bit about something related, but actually quite a bit different, and is how we are approaching SEO in the COVID-19 era. Because of course, our business basically facilitates physical transactions between people. Either you sell your iPhone or your sofa to another one via Mil Anuncios. Either you go to coches.net to find your next car, to Fotocasa or Habitaclia to find your next home, or to InfoJobs to find your next job. And this is extremely physical business. As you can guess, the impact is quite interesting because if people cannot meet or there is no jobs nowadays, it's quite a difficult moment. But one of the important things that you can see is that there can be quite an important impact, not only in visits, but on the level of ads that we have in our platforms, because users are at home and they can meet, so they will not post ads, of course, thanks God. But at the end of the day, this creates an issue for SEO, and it's that we have empty listings because our SEO strategy is, as I was showing you, ranking these landing pages with lists of items. And if we have less items, then we will start to lose some of our long tail pages and they will go 404 or worse, they will show a soft 404. So different measures that we are taking is to actually show different content to the users and freezing the ad expiration time so that the ads stay for longer and users don't have to worry about it. But not just that. In the times of coronavirus, everything changes. So usually what we say is that we make the mix between what users search in Google and our content, right? This is the best way to approach SEO for a marketplace, because at the end, you are mixing demand with supply, right? As you can see here. But in the coronavirus era, the best way to do it probably is as the user searches are changing so much, basically by the day, you need to look a lot more into the internal searches of your website and create landing pages accordingly on a very fast pace. So we have been doing that to help users. And not only that, users have been helping us to do that as well. And the results can be fairly interesting. So as you can see here, one of the examples is what users search more nowadays. It's in Spanish, but basically there are a lot of sanitary stuff that they are searching for. Of course, in Adevinta, we don't allow our users to sell masks or sanitary elements. Of course, due to coronavirus, we want that to be in hospitals, not in people's houses. But they are searching a lot for it. If we skip that part, we can see that a lot of people are searching for things that they are using to actually do sport at home for the bicycle, or even other things like a thermometer, which is basically to know if you have coronavirus. So all these things, maybe we didn't think that this was super relevant, but at the end of the day, we noticed that users have very dynamic demand, and user demand is our priority. The last but not the least important thing for this coronavirus era for me is that organic continues to be one of the most important channels. That is obvious, but even more in this case, because this is an example of one of our marketplaces. You can see here when coronavirus started to kick in mid-March, as we paused our basically our efforts in paid marketing because it didn't make sense to continue investing, we can see that organic now represents even a higher share of the total visits. And that means that we should continue to invest more into it. And one of the important things is that we are not only investing more now, but actually we are looking at the strategy differently so that when these kind of things happen, we can deliver greater results and help more our users in the different queries that they have. So to do this, we launched 3D visits to homes, for instance. That has been a thing that might seem very obvious, but we were not ready in some of the sites to do it. But now users can, for instance, do these things without leaving home, and that is a very great thing for our users and their safety. I don't want to end the presentation without mentioning all the great people that has been working on all these SEO projects during the year, all the different teams in Adevinta and the different companies that we have. And yeah, many thanks for listening to my talk. I hope it was interesting to you. And if there is any questions, I don't know if we have time, but if not, I will answer in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you, Esteve. Amazing talk. And yes, we have some questions. And we have time. We have 5 more minutes. So I'm going to go to the questions. First, did you find any significant differences in your SEO strategies depending on the country?
That is a great question. Definitely, there is differences between the SEO strategy that you follow in different markets. First, let's put an example. In Morocco, users search in French or in Arabic. So the strategy is quite different because users are searching in different languages, so that you will need to follow different approaches for each. Another example would be in our marketplace in Belarus, in Kufar. Users search only in one language, in Belarusian, but they rank on Google and in Yandex. So it's 2 different search engines, and your SEO strategy needs to fit both search engines because they are pretty equal between each other. So at the end, yes, it's not the same to rank in the UK, which is a very mature market that it's very complex to rank for, and the level of the competitors is very high, versus ranking in developing countries like, let's say, Tunis, where there is not that much SEO players and they are not that advanced. So you maybe are following different approaches and you need different implementations or resources to do it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Next question. What is, in your opinion, the relevance of domain name, age, and content freshness in 2020's SEO?
Well, that is a great question again. And I think, of course, having a domain that has been there for longer, it definitely helps SEO, not because it has been there for longer, but rather because in this period of time, you have accumulated signals to Google that your domain is trustworthy and that you are a reliable source. So content freshness is the pillar of what we do in Adevinta, because every day we have hundreds of thousands of new ads in the platforms, and what we cannot do is just show the same ads every day. So what we do is a very dynamic thing, refreshing the content on I think every minute almost, and that definitely helps SEO because Google can see you as a more relevant and fresh source. So yeah, definitely these are some of the pillars of SEO nowadays, and it will continue to be because this is the foundation of SEO, basically.
Cool. Awesome. Next question. Are internal links pointing to category pages or to internal searches? In the case of searches, what is the strategy for not over-indexing?
That is a great question. I will share in the chat some resources about it. But we have a very broad methodology of working with indexed searches. As you said, there is a lot of challenges. You can have a duplication of queries, synonyms. You can have singulars and plurals. You can have many different difficulties that could make your pages not being that much useful to Google and actually being hitting you in the long run. So what we do is using different process like a stemming process to deduplicate keywords. We use a blank list of words to stop some of this, and basically trying to make one page per intent, per keyword intent. And in this case, basically, we can have quite good results because we created this methodology to be scalable, and it's not that difficult now to expand it to new sites. But yes, it's a very difficult work to work with indexed searches because it can go badly very, very fast.
Cool. We have 1 more minute. So one last question. What do you think about Google's AMP?
Well, to be honest, I'm quite a hater of Google AMP because it goes against everything that internet stands for. The pages are hosted in Google servers, Google standard created by Googlers. By I think 70% of the code is generated by Google employees. The governance is on Google. Everything is quite a mess. So I would not recommend putting AMP unless basically you have no choice to do it. And the only case I know where there is no choice to do it is when you are a media site, a newspaper, or a media site in general, because then Google makes you basically if you don't have AMP, you don't show up in most of the Google news results. So you need to do it. But I don't recommend it. And in Adevinta, we don't have it almost, I think, in any marketplace.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Great talk. There are some more questions that we can send them to you and maybe you can answer them on the chat. And
yes.
Big round of applause from your houses for Esteve remote, and stay tuned for our next speaker. Thank you.